Secret pattern break to use when you're done repeating the same love story with different faces. Be careful with this video. Once you see the pattern you've been replaying in love, you won't be able to unsee it. Watch it till the end if you're ready to step out of your old love loops and into a relationship that actually lasts. You know the cycle by now. The chemistry starts electric, full of late-night conversations and inside jokes that make you believe this time is different. You screenshot messages to analyze with friends, reading between lines that might not even exist. Then somewhere around week 6, the energy shifts. Messages take longer to answer. Plans become suggestions that never solidify. The person who couldn't stop talking to you suddenly has a schedule that never quite clears up. Or maybe you're the one who pulls back, finding reasons why it won't work just as things start feeling real, sabotaging the momentum because vulnerability feels more dangerous than loneliness. There's also the pattern of being drawn to the same type wearing different clothes. The unavailable one who keeps you guessing with mixed signals you try to decode like ancient texts. The charming one who never quite follows through, but always has a good excuse that makes you feel unreasonable for wanting consistency. The intense one who creates drama you mistake for passion because calm feels boring after a lifetime of chaos. The project person who needs fixing, whose potential you can see so clearly that you ignore how they actually show up day to day. Maybe you're the person who overinvests early, reading meaning into every interaction, planning futures from first dates, turning casual coffee into auditions for forever. You find yourself checking their social media stories within minutes, analyzing who liked what and when. Or perhaps you're on the other side, keeping people at arm's length, finding flaws to justify distance, sabotaging good things before they can disappoint you. You might be the chronic explainer, turning simple requests into dissertations, apologizing for taking up space, performing your worth instead of simply being present. The love loops that feel like personality traits. These aren't random relationship mishaps or evidence that you're destined to be alone. They're love loops, patterns so familiar they feel like personality traits instead of learned responses to old hurts. Each interaction feels like a remix of something you've already lived. New faces, same story. Different coffee shops, identical conversations about where this is going. You change apps, move cities, update your photos, even try different types of people. But somehow you end up recreating the same dynamics in fresh packaging. It's like repainting the room while all the furniture stays in the same place. The colors might look different, but you're still bumping into the same emotional obstacles, still navigating the same cramped space. You might switch from dating apps to meeting people organically, or from casual dating to serious searching, or from long relationships to keeping things light. But the underlying relationship system stays unchanged. The same insecurities show up wearing different outfits. The same fears drive the same behaviors that create the same outcomes you're trying to escape. The reason surface changes don't create lasting shifts is that they're not addressing what generates those outcomes in the first place. When someone trades one form of emotional unavailability for another, when they replace one anxious attachment with a different version of the same insecurity, when they swap one people-pleasing pattern for a new way of abandoning themselves for approval, they've changed the scenery, but not the script. Your brain isn't sabotaging you when it defaults to familiar relationship patterns. It's doing what brains do, which is conserve energy and stick to routes it knows. Every time you respond to relationship stress in the same way, whether that's over-texting when someone pulls back, shutting down when conflict arises, testing someone's interest with passive-aggressive comments, or over-explaining your feelings until the other person feels overwhelmed, You're strengthening neural pathways that make those responses more automatic. When emotional pressure builds, your nervous system reaches for the program it's run before, even when that program consistently creates the outcomes you're trying to avoid. The over-pursuing, the walls, the performance, the testing, the analyzing every word choice. These were survival strategies that helped you navigate earlier chapters of your love story. They made sense when they formed. Maybe over-explaining kept you safe when silence felt dangerous. Maybe people-pleasing prevented abandonment when you were too young to protect yourself. Maybe creating chaos felt better than risking disappointment from someone you actually cared about. But strategies that outlive their context become invisible barriers to the connection you actually want. The moment that changes everything. There's a moment that changes everything, though. It's when you catch yourself mid-pattern and realize you're watching it happen, instead of just being swept along by it. Maybe you're about to send that double text, and suddenly you can see the urgency driving it, recognizing it as anxiety rather than love. Maybe you're crafting a response that sounds like who you think they want instead of who you actually are. Maybe you're agreeing to plans that don't excite you because saying no feels too risky, too likely to push them away. That pause, that microsecond of awareness, isn't trivial. It's the first real break in the loop because you're no longer unconsciously identified with the pattern. You're watching it instead of being it. Most people dismiss these moments because they feel so small, so ordinary. But recognition is where transformation begins. For the first time, there's space between you and your automatic response, and in that space lives the possibility of choosing differently. Here's what shifts when you start seeing relationship patterns as information instead of permanent features of who you are in love. Instead of, "This is just how I am," the question becomes, "What was this protecting me from?" Every repeated dynamic becomes data about what felt necessary in an earlier version of your story, but might not be serving you anymore. The loop isn't evidence that you're unlovable or that healthy relationships aren't meant for you. It's feedback. It's your relationship system's way of saying that the current approach has been outgrown and something new is ready to emerge. When that reframe settles in, you start noticing subtle signs that a different way of being is already developing. You find yourself answering messages more directly, without the usual 3 drafts and over-analysis of every word choice. You have a conversation that stays honest without forcing vulnerability or performing connection. You place a small boundary and keep your evening plans instead of dropping everything for someone else's schedule. You ask for clarity about weekend plans instead of hoping they'll telepathically understand what you need. You might notice that you're not checking their social media stories immediately anymore, not because you're trying to play games, but because you genuinely have other things that interest you. You start saying no to dates that don't actually appeal to you instead of going just to have somewhere to be. You choose to stay home and read instead of going out hoping to meet someone, because staying in feels more honest to your actual mood. You recognize when someone's communication style stresses you out instead of adapting yourself to accommodate their mixed signals. The quiet shifts that build natural momentum. These shifts don't feel dramatic. There's no lightning bolt moment or sudden personality transformation. Instead, it's like turning down the volume on a noise you didn't realize had been playing constantly in the background. You feel calmer in your body. Sleep comes easier. Decisions that used to require endless internal negotiation start feeling simpler. The constant mental chatter about where you stand with someone begins to quiet. You stop composing texts in your head before conversations even happen. Watch what happens when these small alignments start to compound. You honor one boundary with someone who's been breadcrumbing you, and discover you have energy for present connections. You stop scrolling through old conversations and use that time for a walk that clears your head and actually makes you feel good about yourself. You show up to a friend's gathering you would usually skip because you're tired of your own excuses, and you have an actual conversation with someone new that doesn't feel forced or performative. You start keeping small promises to yourself. When you say you'll go to that yoga class, you actually go. When you plan to call a friend back, you do it when you said you would. When you decide to stop texting first for a while, you stick to it without turning it into a game or a test. These tiny acts of self-trust start rebuilding something that's been broken, proving to yourself that you can be relied upon, that your own needs and boundaries matter. You tidy your space for 5 minutes, and your mood lifts enough that the message you send sounds warm instead of anxious. That warmth leads to a coffee invitation that actually happens. You move your phone out of the bedroom and sleep better. Better sleep means you're more present in conversations. More presence means people feel heard when they talk to you, which makes them want to keep talking. Each change feels manageable alone, but together they create momentum that carries you into entirely different relationship territory. The same social situations that used to feel exhausting start feeling curious. Conversations that used to require performance start feeling like play. People who used to trigger your old patterns either fade naturally from your life or respond to your new energy in surprisingly positive ways. This momentum builds because alignment creates efficiency. When you're working with your authentic patterns instead of against them, everything requires less effort. You're not constantly managing how you're being received or predicting what response will keep someone interested. You're not forcing chemistry or talking yourself into connections that feel off. You're not performing a version of yourself that you think is more lovable than who you actually are. The backwards approach most people take to love. This is where most people have been approaching love backwards. They've been trying to control outcomes, manage how others feel about them, predict and prevent every possible rejection or disappointment. But relationship outcomes are downstream from the system that creates them. They're what naturally flows from who you are when you're not performing, what you attract when you're operating from presence instead of strategy. Instead of trying to make people choose you, you become someone who chooses wisely. Instead of trying to avoid all conflict, you become someone who addresses misalignment kindly and early. Instead of trying to be perfect, you become someone who shows up authentically and lets compatibility reveal itself naturally. The focus shifts from managing others' responses to creating internal conditions that make healthy connection feel natural. Your brain has what neuroscientists call the reticular activating system, a network that filters what information reaches your conscious awareness. It's like a search function that highlights whatever you've programmed it to notice. When you're thinking about buying a certain car, you suddenly see that model everywhere. When you learn a new song, you start hearing it in unexpected places. The information was always there, but your attention wasn't tuned to receive it. When your relationship priorities begin to shift, your attention filter shifts with it. You start noticing green flags that were invisible when you were focused on fixing red ones. The chronic people pleaser starts recognizing reciprocity when it appears. The person who always chose chaos starts noticing stability and finding it attractive rather than boring. The over-explainer starts seeing that simple communication often works better than elaborate justifications. Same dating pool, different perception. What changes when you step into the identity of someone who chooses rather than chases? Someone who designs conditions for healthy connection rather than hoping the right person will fix everything. Someone who tells the truth kindly and early rather than performing their way into love? You stop being someone things happen to and start being someone who participates consciously in what unfolds. Stop performing. Start choosing. When the filter shifts, red flags get loud and green lights do too. Design the day love can live in. Small alignments create durable connection. Truth early, ease later. How this transformation unfolds in real life. This transformation often looks unremarkable from the outside, but feels profound from within. Someone stops the late-night scrolling through dating apps and starts showing up to activities they actually enjoy. They answer one message with honest timing needs instead of whatever they think sounds most appealing. They keep a boundary with someone who's been draining their energy and suddenly have bandwidth for people who don't require emotional labor just to connect with. Within weeks, they're in open, steady conversation with someone they met at a book reading they almost didn't attend, someone who shares their values and communicates clearly from the start. From the outside, it might look like timing or fate. From the inside, it's the natural result of tuned attention and aligned action. The right person was probably always in their extended social orbit, but they couldn't perceive the connection when their system was calibrated for drama and uncertainty. You're not waiting for permission to show up differently in relationships. You're not waiting for the perfect person to appear before you start being authentic. The transformation is happening right now, in the space between recognizing the old patterns and choosing something new. Every time you answer honestly instead of strategically, every time you ask for what you need instead of hoping they'll guess, every time you choose presence over performance, you're building the system that attracts different outcomes. If you made it this far, you're already in the shift. The fact that these words resonate means your attention filter is already changing. The love life transformation isn't some dramatic event waiting to happen. It's the natural expression of a relationship system that's been quietly reorganizing around who you're becoming. It shows up as conversations that feel easy, plans that get kept, small kindnesses that don't require earning, and a steady sense of being chosen by someone who actually knows you. Keep tuning your attention. Keep making choices from wholeness rather than need. Keep designing inputs that support the love you're creating rather than the loneliness you're leaving behind. The system is already working with you. You just needed to remember how to work with it.